session 2 of Living in the Spirit. And yesterday we said how the Spirit is flowing water, living water. It's not stagnant water. But today I want to look at how the Spirit speaks to us. When Moses fled from Egypt, he went into the desert and he ended up marrying there, and he was in charge of his father-in-law's flocks. And one day he was near Mount Horeb and he saw a bush that was burning, but it didn't seem to be burning up. Now, Moses could have gone home that night and said to his family, "Oh, you won't believe what I saw today. It was really odd." But he didn't. He took notice and he went over to see what was going on. And this is what it says in Exodus 3:4. When the Lord saw that he'd gone over to have a look, he called to him from within the bush. And that's, of course, when Moses got the call to go back to Egypt and confront Pharaoh and get the people of God set free. God often uses unusual coincidences, unusual happenings to attract our attention because he wants to say something to us. And yet it's so easy to ignore these things and just sort of maybe say to others, "Oh, you won't believe what I saw today. It was just awesome." It sometimes happens with a verse that keeps popping up, and it pops up in odd places, and it's like God saying, take notice of this. It's very easy to ignore. I heard a story from the USA where a roadrunner found himself on church property, and this was very unusual. The area they were in just wasn't an area where you had roadrunners. Anyway, he was hanging around the church property, and especially a building which they had, it was their prayer house. And it used to look in the window, and they sort of became quite fond of this roadrunner, but he kept being there and just looking in the window. They wondered what on earth was going on. Anyway, one day the cleaner was in there, and he must have left a door open because the roadrunner got inside. And they spent a little bit of time. The roadrunner didn't seem to worry him at all, or it. And so it sort of spent time there, and then suddenly something spooked it, and it went racing down the hall straight into a glass window, and it was killed. And they were really upset because they got quite fond of this roadrunner. But they were wondering what God was saying in that. And as they prayed, this is what they got. God was bringing something new into their worship community, but what he was bringing in had to be able to have a way to be released, or it would just die within the community. So they eventually got this strange happening to give them the message that God wanted them to hear. Another way of hearing from God is either by marking a place in our Bible where a verse has said something to us at some stage, or keeping a diary and writing down, say, a dream that we know, hang, that meant something. Or if you've had people pray over you and give words of prophecy, to keep a record of them. Because God is speaking to us in various ways. And sometimes we don't see straight away, like it may not make sense what that person prayed over us, or that verse, we can't understand why God gave us that verse or that dream. But if we've got a record of it and we look back, we probably see there is quite a pattern, that God is telling us something bit by bit, and we can then start to hear what he's saying to us overall. He doesn't necessarily give us everything all at once. So if we want to hear from God, we really have to do two things. One is be alert to the unusual things that he may be using to attract our attention, and be disciplined, having some sort of record of what he's been saying to us over time, so that we can see when a pattern is developing.
Hear the call